Let's take a look at the rectangular coordinate system and equations in two variables. We're going to be graphing various things on something that looks like this. Now this is our x-axis here, and this one is our y-axis. Now where they intersect, that has a special name. That's called our origin. And let me write this down. There we go. If I take a look at this, it's split into 4 different quadrants. This one's our first quadrant. This one's our second quadrant, our third quadrant, and our fourth quadrant. So it goes on counterclockwise. Now they're always labeled with Roman numerals like you see here. So now we're going to be plotting something called a point. It's also called an ordered pair. And it looks like this. And I'll actually put a number here so we can see it. Now this refers to our x part of our point, and this one right here refers to our y part of our point. Now these first problems revolve around plotting. So let's do that. Let's see, our first point is, actually, let me go ahead and write them all down here. -5, -2. Q is -1, 3. R is in 1, 2. S is -2, 5. T is -1, -1. And U is 4, -4. Now the first thing it says is plot the following ordered pairs in a rectangular coordinate system. So let's do that first. Now here we got -5, -2. I'm going to go to -5 on my x-axis, because remember the first part of your point is your x value and this is your y value. So I go to -5 on my x-axis and I go to -2 on my y-axis, and it's kind of like you envision an invisible line there going down like that, and then here at -2 you have one going across like that, and where they intersect is going to be where your point is. So again, -5 and then -2. Now these letters that are in front of them, usually use those to label them, like that's P. Now Q is -1, 3. So I go to -1, 3, and that's going to be our Q. Now R is 1, 2. So 1, 2 would be right there. And S is -2, 5. So -2, 5. And that's our S. T is -1, -1. -1, -1 is right here. So that's my T. And U is 4, -4. So 4, -4. And that's our U. Now the second thing it asks for is tell which quadrant it lies in, or state that it lies in x-axis or y-axis. Well, P is -5, -2. And remember this is quadrant 1, quadrant 2, 3, and 4. So P is in quadrant 3. Q is -1, 3. That's going to fall in quadrant 2. R is 1, 2, which is quadrant 1. S is -2, 5, which is quadrant 2. T is -1, -1, which is quadrant 3. And U is 4, -4, which is quadrant 4. And those would be your answers to that problem. Let's look at 2 here. It says, identify the coordinates of each point labeled in the figure. Name the quadrant in which each point lies, or state the point lies on the x or y axis. So let's start with A first. Okay, so if I go straight down, that'll tell me what my x value is, which is -2. And if I go to the right, that tells me my y value, which is 4. So this will be -2, 4. And remember, this is first quadrant, and that's second quadrant. So this would be quadrant 2. Now B. That's if I go straight down from there, that gives me my x value. So it tells us x is 3, and if I go straight over to here, it gives us the y value, which is 1. So this would be 3, 1. And that falls in quadrant 1. Now C is down here. And if I go over here, C is -4, or 4. There we go. And if I go over here, it's -1. So it'll be 4, -1, which is in quadrant 4. D. Now here's -1 for my x. Here's 1 for my x. Right here is 0. So x is 0, and y is -2. So 0, -2, and this falls on our y-axis. Is that all they're wanting? Yeah, y-axis. And E, if I come over here, E is on -4 xy's, and y would be 0. When I say y is 0, here's y is 1, here's y is -1, so halfway in between, this is y is 0. Our origin is actually 0, 0, point-wise. But those will be your answers. Oh, what is this one? This is the x-axis, sorry. Yeah, let's take a look at this one. I'll start a new page. Excuse me. We got y is equal to 5x minus 1. And it says determine whether or not the ordered pair satisfies the equation. So we got 3, 14, 2, 3, and -2, -11. Determine whether or not the ordered pair satisfies the equation. Ordered pair means point. Satisfies the equation. What they're wanting you to do is they give you this point, this is your x, and this is your y. They want you to plug that into your equation. So we're going to plug those into y is equal to 5x minus 1. Well, we said y is 14 equals 5 times x, and x is 3, minus 1. Now at this point, this is a question mark. We don't know if they're equal. That's what we're trying to see. Well, 5 times 3 is 15. So we got 15 minus 1. And again, we're checking to see if that's true. And 15 minus 1 gives us 14. Since both sides equal each other, the answer to this one is yes. That is an ordered pair. Okay, next one, 2, 3. So again, I'll plug that into my equation. This is our x and this is our y, so we'll put 3 in for the y. This is a question mark at this point. And plug 2 in for the x, minus 1. 5 times 2 is 10. And 10 minus 1 is 9. These do not equal each other, so this is not an ordered pair that satisfies that equation. Well, let's do the next one. -2, -11. Again, this is my x and this is my y. So I'll plug -11 in for the y. Plug -2 in for the x. And again, this is a question mark here. We don't know if they're equal yet. Well, 5 times -2 is -10. That's a question mark. And negative 10, negative 1 gives us negative 11. Since these are equal to each other, then the answer to this one is yes. That is an ordered pair that satisfies our equation. Excuse me. Let's take a look at this one. We've got x plus y is equal to 5. And it wants us to let x equals 7. It says find an ordered pair that satisfies the equation x plus y by letting x equals 7. So what we're going to do with this is we're going to plug 7 in for the x. So we got 7 plus y is equal to 5, and then we want to solve for y. So I'll take 7 over to the right side. Remember, you take anything across your equals, sign changes. So we got y is equal to 5 minus 7, or y is equal to negative 2. So to write down our point, you put your x part first, and they told us x is 7. And then you put your y part, which is negative 2. And that would be your answer. Let's look at another one of those. Got 8x minus 2y equals 18. And they say let y is equal to 3. Well, same idea. We're going to go through, and where our y is, we'll put in 3. So I got 8x minus 2 times 3 equals 18. Negative 2 times 3 is negative 6 equals 18. Take negative 6 to the right side, becomes a positive 6. Again, anytime you take anything across your equals, sign changes. 18 plus 6 gives us 24. Last step, divide both sides by a number in front of your x, which is 8. These 8's cancel. And we get x is equal to 3. So we want to write our point down, so we're going to put our x part first, which is 3, comma, and then our y part, which is also 3. And that'd be our answer. And I'm going to start a new page. I'm not sure if I have room there. Okay, let's look at this one. Let's see, we've got x, and then we've got our y, and then our actual point. And they tell us negative 2, 2, and 3. And we got y is equal to 3x plus 2. And they say use the equation to complete the table. Use the table to list some of the ordered pairs that satisfy the equation. Okay, so what we're going to do is, these are kind of like the same as the last two problems. We're going to take each x value and plug it into our equation and solve for y. So I'll take the first one at negative 2. So I've got y is equal to 3x plus 2. We'll plug negative 2 in for the x. So we've got 3 times negative 2 plus 2, which is negative 6 plus 2, which gives us a negative 4. So we're going to put negative 4 here, and a point that goes along with that, you put the x part first and the y part second. So that would be negative 2, negative 4. Well, then we're going to do the same thing for x equals 2. So I'm going to plug it into y is equal to 3x plus 2. Well, we said x was 2, so we'll put 2 in for the x. And 3 times 2 is 6, and 6 plus 2 gives us 8. So that would be our y part of the second point, which would be 2, 8. And then we'll do our last one, x is equal to 3. And again, we're going to plug 3 in for our x. So we've got y is equal to 3x plus 2. So we've got 3 times 3 plus 2, which gives us 9 plus 2, which gives us 11. So this would be 3 comma 11. And those would be our answers. Let's look at this one. Got x is equal to 5. This is an oddball case. So oddball it's easy. Y is -1, 3, and 5. Okay. Now before we would take this value and we plug it in for the y and then solve for x. But if I take -1, there is no y to plug it into. So x is just 5. So this point would be 5, -1. Now we go plug 3 in for y, but there's no y, so our x is just 5. So this would be 5, 3. We go to plug the 5 in for the y, there is no y, so our x is just 5. So this will be the point 5, 5. And again, it's pretty straightforward. When you got x equals to a number, your x value is always the same. Now if we had y is equal to a number, your y values would always be equal to whatever the value that is. Let's take a look at the next problem. X over 3 minus y over 2 equals -4. And I say 0 here, and then 0, 6 here. Okay. So what they're wanting us to do is this first point here, they're telling us y is equal to 0. So we're going to plug y is equal to 0 into our equation. So we get x over 3 minus 0 over 2 equals -4. Now 0 divided by anything is 0, so that drops away. So we get x over 3 is equal to -4. Remember our steps for solving a linear equation. When we've got a fraction, we multiply everything by the LCM of all our denominators. We only have one denominator, so that is our LCM. So we'll multiply everything by 3. So we'll multiply the x over 3 by 3 and the -4 by 3. Well, 3 times -4 gives us -12. So we put -12 in here. And this point would be -12, 0. Now for next value, y is equal to 0. Or x is equal to 0. So again, we're going through our equation. And we're going to plug 0 in for x. So I got 0 over 3 minus y over 2 is equal to -4. 0 divided by 3 is 0, so that drops away. And we got -y over 2 equals -4. Get rid of our fraction. We'll multiply both sides by 2. Like that. When we do that, those 2's cancel, and we got -y is equal to -8. And we're solving for y, so we're going to divide both sides by -1. And we get y is equal to +8. So this would be 8, so this point would be 0, 8. And our last one. I'm plugging in x equals 6. So I got x over 3 minus y over 2 equals -4. And we're going to plug 6 in for the x. So I got 6 over 3 minus y over 2 equals -4. 6 over 3 is 2 minus y over 2 equals -4. Now we're solving for y. You know, first step, get rid of parentheses, don't have any. Second step, get rid of fractions. We do have a fraction. Multiply everything by the LCM of all our denominators. Our only denominator is 2, so multiply everything by 2. Two times 2 is 4. Here these 2's would cancel. And we've got minus y equals 2 times -4 is -8. Third step, get everything with a y on one side, numbers on the other. So take -y to the right side and -8 to the left side. You take anything across your equals, your sign changes. So that becomes a +8, and that becomes a +y. And 4 plus 8 is 12, so we get y is equal to 12. And that's what would go here. And this point would be 6, 12. And I think that's our last problem. So let me go ahead and stop the recorder here.